Welcome to Welch Family Homestead. Who doesn't like tomatoes? I'm going to show you how to plant tomato seed. We'll do it in stages. The first stage is basically telling you how to place it in the dirt, the seeds, do it right, and how to take care of them over the first week or so. So these are going to be some amazing varieties. As you know, I love tomatoes. In the Welch Family Homestead, all of us in our family are so ecstatic about tomatoes. We just love tomatoes. I thought I'd come out here where the beautiful view was so you'd actually be able to see it. In my background, this is not a green screen. This is actually the view here from Welch Family Homestead. These three varieties that I'm planting, this is a hybrid early doll. And hybrid early doll, you're going to see a lot of those in the stores. The early dolls are going to be more of a tomato that you would see in bunches. You'll see the vines many times in the store still connected to them. They make a really beautiful, perfect, round globe style tomato. And many times they're sold with the stem still attached to several tomatoes. The hybrid early doll is a determinate. A determinate tomato is much different than a indeterminate tomato. An indeterminate tomato compared to a determinate tomato. I have three varieties here that are indeterminate. One variety here called the early doll that is a determinate. Now, determinates are many times planted by the commercial farmers. You're going to see them planted most of the time by the commercial industry because they ripen about the same time. The entire vine is going to have a time span to where that plant is going to grow to a certain height, usually maybe around 2 feet or so. They're not going to get too large. And all the tomatoes are going to bloom about the same time. And most of all the tomatoes on the plant are going to ripen about the same time. And these are bred as determinate tomatoes so that when commercial farmers are harvesting, they know when they can harvest. They can go through the entire field with their machines or with their pickers, and they can gather all the tomatoes at once, destroy all the vines, and move on to the next crop that's going to be planted in that soil for the next part of that season of that year. So determinate tomatoes are going to be more determined time of which you would pick them, because most all of these seeds are going to grow plants that are going to have a harvest that is going to come about the same time for all the plants that come from these seeds. Now, an indeterminate plant, which these three varieties, we're going to talk about them in a moment as I plant them, they're indeterminate. And indeterminate means that you can expect these vines to continue to grow. They'll have blooms, they'll have their blossoms, they'll have their fruit, their tomatoes will be growing, and the plant will continue to grow. These right here, the determinate, you have very little staking to do. You may have to put a stake or two in it, but that's about it. They're not going to get that high, and they're not going to get weighted down so heavily. The indeterminate is going to keep growing. That's why it's very important to have them in a cage or have them in some type of a way of staking them at a higher level. These could get up to 5, 6, 7 feet tall as they keep growing. Now, it depends on how you prune them and how you trellis them out, but I actually have my wire cages that I plant these type of tomatoes into. This type of tomato here that's determinate, even though it's going to only be about 2 feet, I want to make sure that my fruit doesn't touch the ground where it could get insect damage or rodent damage or what have you. I'm going to make sure I stake it, and I'm going to also make sure that I support the limbs so that the fruit doesn't touch the ground, but I'm not going to put it in a wire frame or cage. The indeterminate, I'm going to protect them for their height because they're going to not only produce tomatoes at one time, Once they start producing ripe tomatoes, once you pick those tomatoes, next week you have more to pick, and the next week you have more to pick, and the next day you have more to pick. It depends on the weather. One of the things that I would like to make a point, very heavily make a point, is always water your tomato plants consistently. Because if you don't water your tomato plants on a consistent level, and you have a dry spell, and you miss out on watering your plants during that dry spell, and they go through stress, and then all of a sudden you have a rain that comes that just downpours, or even a light rain that comes down consistently for a day or two, and they get a lot of water, and those tomatoes are in those ripening stages. You have to remember now, the skin of the tomato is elastic as long as it's moist, but the interior of the tomato is what's absorbing all that moisture from the ground, and as it's absorbing that moisture from the ground, it's causing that tomato to expand, and you're going to get cracks on the top of your tomatoes, and you've seen this before, and many times that will cause rot before you can get them off the vine. They'll grow so fast that the skin cannot stretch quick enough. Now I'll go over that in another time, how that you can actually add lime, a lime slurry to your dirt to help you to offset that damage. Obviously adding lime to your dirt will help that plant tremendously to have a softer skin and a thicker skin, to be able to be more elastic, and that's important to keep your tomatoes as beautiful as possible until you harvest them. Now these three indeterminate varieties that I'm going to be talking to you about today as we plant them, one is the Cherokee Purple. Now the Cherokee Purple is a hybrid as well, and also I have one here that is a hybrid Heirloom Black. It's a hybrid Heirloom Black. Now the black tomatoes, all three of these are a darker colored tomato, but the Heirloom Black, which is a hybrid Heirloom Black, many people confuse the word heirloom and hybrid. Let me give you a little bit of a hint there. Every tomato that you eat today is, even if it says heirloom, it's a hybrid, because hybrids, basically, you can create them yourself on your own farm if you cross-pollinate one type of a tomato with another, and you create another tomato. That's what a hybrid is. It's not a purebred tomato. Now, for it to be called an heirloom, that basically means there's different times that people give to that to be able to qualify it for heirloom. Some people say it has to be a tomato that's established for at least 50 years. Some say 75, some say 100 years or more, that heirloom tomato has been kept a pure breed for that long before it can be called an heirloom. But obviously, all those heirlooms that you have today that you're able to buy are the result of people, whether it was 50 years or 75 or 100 years ago, of them breeding different varietals of tomatoes together to actually create a certain hybrid that gives that individual grower that's trying to perfect a tomato, maybe they want more seeds. Maybe that's what they're looking for. If it's a small tomato like you'd put in a salad without having to cut it up, those types of tomatoes have a lot more seeds per mass than, say, a slicing tomato that you're going to put on a sandwich. I personally do not like a lot of seeds in my tomatoes when I'm growing them, because I'm not growing them for the small tomatoes. I'm growing them for being good sliced tomatoes or a canning tomato. So I want more meat inside that tomato and less seeds. And if you look at a lot of the health benefits and cautions, you're actually better off to take the seeds out of the tomato when you're eating it than you are to keep the seeds in the tomato when you're eating it, because it has a better gut health ability and benefit if you do so. So I'm always looking for more of the meaty varieties, and that's what these are. We have the hybrid Cherokee Purple. We have the hybrid Heirloom Black. We have also the tomato pineapple, which is a yellow tomato, and we have the hybrid early doll. Now, all of these, other than the pineapple tomato, all these are red or darker, all the way to black. These are going to be more acidic. The pineapple is going to be a yellow tomato when it's ripe. It's going to have a lot of meat in it, less seeds, but yet because of the color and because of the breeding, it has a lower acidity level, which many people like that because some people prefer that because they say that their stomach can handle it better. If you're going to make salsas and those types of dishes, I will tell you that either one works fine, and you can make all of them a great meal. Now, let's talk about planting our seeds. Now, I'm going to be real simple here today. Okay, let's start out with the hybrid Heirloom Black. Okay, that's what we're going to start out with. The hybrid Heirloom Black. And I won't plant all the seeds in front of it. I just want to give you a little trick. You don't have to go to the farmer's co-op or your farm store necessarily to buy planting trays. I have those around here, but to get started, I'm talking to those of you who are trying to get your plant started. You're not trying to commercial farm. You're just trying to do it a certain way to get the benefit of your plants and to get them started, to take them on up into what we call seedlings. And then we're going to transfer those seedlings into other pots afterwards, because what we're going to be doing today is we're going to plant several seeds inside of each cup. Each of these packs have about 30 seeds each. So I'm going to make basically all the seeds in this pack are going to go into these two containers, solo cups. Everyone has access to solo cups. So I'm making it very, very easy for you. Now I'm going to show you how I do this. I'm going to take my cordless drill. Everyone has a cordless drill, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill about 3 holes in the bottom of this, but I'm going to drill it through several of them at a time. Let's do 4 holes. Now that was easy. And as you can see, the holes that I have drilled in the solo cups, and it went through to every cup that the bit would reach, okay? So I'm making this a very quick and easy process. Let's see how many that one drill did. Wow, it just kept going. So, excellent. We're set up here. Now, let's put some dirt in our container and show you exactly how that we're going to grow these plants, these tomatoes. I have some organic dirt. Okay, so I normally, if I'm only going to plant one seed, I'm only going to put about this much dirt in the container. But because I'm planting about 15 seeds in here, I'm going to fill it up almost to the top, because I'm going to actually separate these once they've become seedlings. You know, planting a garden is one of the smartest things that you can do. I don't know if you have added up the numbers of how much you spend in a grocery store, but an average tomato, not even an heirloom, not even ones at this level of quality of seeds, just regular old tomatoes, are going to cost you an average of about $1.25 each, if you're lucky. That's about the average cost of a tomato when you buy it in the store. $1.25 each. Now these seeds, when I count the cost of these seeds and I count the cost of what I'm going to get off of these plants, I'm going to have about a total of 5 cents per tomato. And it's going to be a quality tomato. I've been part of that process. I know what it's gone through, and I'm growing it organically. When it's grown in the store, you're not going to get a tomato for $1 for $1.25. Not for organic. It's not possible. So I'm getting organic. I'm getting much better quality seed. I'm getting much better quality everything. So you see the seeds here? Now, I'm not going to put a lot of dirt on top of these seeds. I'm just going to put about a 1/4 inch dirt. Now, if I was doing this off video, I would be laying out a lot of these and just getting real messy, but I'm trying to be as nice as possible here on this video for you. So here's the rest of our seeds that we're going to plant here. Now this is how easy it is. And you have very little waste when you do it this way, because if you plant it in individual containers, individual cups, and you spend all that money on the trays and what have you, that's fine, you can do that. But some of your seeds are not going to come up. A good example, on average, with these types of seeds, you're going to have about 75% that are going to come up. So that means 25% of your containers that you plant, if you plant one seed at a time, you're going to have no growth. There's not going to be a plant coming out of it at all. Okay, so here we go. I have both of these are the hybrid heirloom black. Hybrid heirloom black. Now, one of the things that I should have done before I put the dirt in there, but I'm going to do it now. I'm going to put hybrid heirloom black. And I put the hybrid heirloom at the bottom, and I put the black at top, because that's just my method. And you can do it any way you want to do it. Everybody has their own different method. If you want to stick something down in your cup, you can. Again, we're going to transfer these out of these into another container. Now, we just planted 30 plants. How fast was that? Now, let's do one more breed, one more varietal, and we're going to get our cups ready. And again, I normally would write on them before I do that. And this time, let's go with the early doll. Okay. Now the early doll, this is a determinate. These are a non-determinate, indeterminate. These are going to grow and grow and grow and keep producing fruit. These are going to produce fruit, the tomato, all at once. They're going to ripen right around this, all in the same week. You'll be able to get all this harvest done. You can take these plants out of the garden after they're done and plant something else there for the fall or winter harvest. Most people, what I will do, wherever I plant these, when I pull these, after they're through producing, I will replace these with something like a turnip greens or collards or something like that, so that I can have something to harvest in the winter months. Okay. Now, I'm not promoting where I got these seeds from, so it's not about that today. Not selling anything. I just want to give you some good education on how to plant seeds and get them started. I will tell you this, at Lowe's right now, just a regular tomato plant at Lowe's, you will pay about $13 for a seedling ready to put into the ground, when I'm going to have a fraction of that. Is not even going to be close. I mean, each tomato plant here that I'm planting is going to be probably about 25 cents each when I'm done. So I'm not going to have a lot of cost in my tomato plants doing it this way, and I'm going to be a lot happier because I know what I'm getting, and I know the environment that they're grown in. Everything that I'm doing here, this is organic compost. Now this here, we're going to label it. This is our early bell, or early doll, hybrid early doll. And I write big because I don't have to please anybody with how neat I am. This is how I write on my cups. Also, this doesn't get me messed up. One of the things I will tell you is don't plant 2 or 3 varieties. In other words, don't plant several varieties and then label. That's going to get you messed up, and you're going to label them wrong. Not good. Another thing is make sure that when you're holding your seeds, if you have different varieties out and you open them up, you don't open it up so that it could potentially slip out of your hand and sling seeds. These seeds are very small. It wouldn't take much to have one of these seeds in there, and before you know it, you're growing early dolls where you think that you have the blacks, and these are indeterminate and these are determinate. And if you have a determinate plant that's growing up in your indeterminate cup, and then you go through the work of trellising it and putting your cage up for your tomato plant, and it doesn't get but 2 foot tall, you're going to think, well, I've got a dwarf. And that's what the determinate plants, another name for them is dwarf, because they're only going to grow about this tall. They're made for they're bred for the industrial farming, so that the machines can go through there and the pickers can go through there, and they have one level to work with, and they all ripen within the same week, so all the picking can be done right away, and again, it's done. Indeterminate, determinate. Indeterminate grows tall, keeps growing, and keeps producing tomatoes for many, many weeks, while the determinate is only going to get ripe all at once. The blooms are all going to come out all at once for those fruits to produce from, and it's done. And it's done. So, not going to plant too many determinates. Most of the seeds that we're going to plant this year are going to be indeterminate. All of these have good taste. One of the things I can say is one thing you need to watch out for is during this stage here is how to keep those seeds at the right moisture. I'm not going to put a lot of moisture in this. Let me tell you exactly what I'm going to do. I've got an old tray here. I have an old tray here. Has a hole in it, a little high up. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to put water in the bottom of it. And this is what we call bottom watering. And this is the best way to do tomato plants, is to bottom water them. And that way you're not pouring the water down on top of these seeds, but it's coming up from the bottom. This dirt, this compost is organic and it's already moist, has a little moisture in it already. But I'm going to place these in here, in those holes that I created in the bottom of these solo cups are going to wick up through that compost, and it's going to be the perfect moisture content for these seeds to germinate and to grow. Thank you for joining me here at Welch Family Homestead.